Pete, and welcome to Comic Books Transformed, where you can join in the discussion about comics that have been transformed into movies, TV shows, and more. I'm joined with my very good friend and co-host, Brian, Mr. Coors Hair. How you doing today, man?
Doing good, Pete.
I had no doubt in my mind that tonight you'd be rocking a shirt that was He-Man plus some other franchise.
All right, let me stand up a little bit here. So
there you go. The Evil Lich. That is a fantastic shirt.
Yeah. I think I actually sent this to you and Danny right before I bought it. And you know what? There's a little bit of a controversy about this shirt. I picked my son up from daycare today. He's sitting in the back seat. He's like, "Dad, there's a big hole in your shirt." So I had this like huge hole in the seam. Like you can't really see it there, but even though it's there, I wore it all day anyway because I'm like, I have to have it on for this. So it wasn't good.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, I have holes in my shirts all over the place, so it's all good.
No, it's brand new. This is the first time I'm wearing it. Like I just got it like a week ago. Like it's not acceptable.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any other He-Man mashup shirts?
I used to have one other one, but it lasted me a great number of years, and I had to retire it. It was a He-Man villain, Bohemian Rhapsody mashup. So it had like Skeletor at the bottom. No, maybe Skeletor was it? It was Skeletor, Merman, Beastman, and Trapjaw. It was like the Queen, like the Bohemian Rhapsody, like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I actually just bought an X-Men version of that style as well. That's coming soon.
Cool.
I buy too many things.
Okay, so on that shirt, it's going to be like Cyclops, Wolverine, Beast?
No.
Professor X?
No. I'll just tell you. Yeah, it's Cyclops, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus.
Okay, cool. That's nice, man. I only have a select few shirts. I'm not as cool as you or Danny, and a lot of them are from like Walmart or Kohl's or something. But I wore my Flash shirt tonight because He-Man, the show, kind of reminds me of the Flash Gordon. I realize this is the DC Flash, but It reminds me of that Flash Gordon movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to bring our viewers something new that they probably haven't seen this week, which is middle-aged white men talking about He-Man. And so I'm sure people haven't got enough of that for this week. Brian, this show, it turned out it generated a big controversy. And like, if you look at the reviews, I believe that the critical reviews are like 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. But then the fan views or whatever, like the regular schmo views are at like 33%. Did you hear about that?
Yes. Classic, The Last Jedi review bombing, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I knew this was a pretty contentious topic for us to talk about, but I feel like you and I kind of have, a hat in the ring for this because we grew up liking He-Man. People might not know this, but I used to be in charge of a literary magazine. And for one of our covers, we did like a He-Man Castle Grayskull cover that you could cut out and have like all these different He-Man figures. And there was a contest inside. And if you could name the figures, as many figures as you could, the person that named the most figures won. And Brian, being how awesome he is, he was able to name like a shit ton of those characters.
I was going to say I remember that, but I don't remember winning anything. Did I win anything?
It's kind of lame. You won like your picture in the magazine, and like we asked some questions about you.
You know what? That does actually sound really familiar, but that's going back like 20 years or so. So
yes, and remember you also won that Omega Supreme over there too.
Yeah, back then, yes.
Yes, it's a lot of money, but yeah, we paid it, from our college magazine. Anyway, like Brian knows all these figures, and I know all these figures because we grew up watching this cartoon. The original cartoon came out in 1983. Ran until 1985, and then of course there were the the reruns for years and years, and of course there's also the Dolph Lundgren movie, which even though it's very cheesy, I'm a big fan of that movie. Are you a fan of that movie too?
I love that movie. I think there was a line in this show that they probably the most famous line from that movie was used in this show.
Oh, okay. Do you mind refreshing my memory? I feel like a poser now.
Well, it's not like it's kind of a generic line, but I always loved how Frank Langella said it. It was, "Let this be our final battle."
Let this be our final battle. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was thinking that there is a like scene that's very reminiscent of that movie at the very end when so spoilers for Masters of the Universe Revelation. We know that you guys have all watched it and complained about it. When he like charges up and becomes like a super Skeletor, that's just like the Frank Langella Skeletor too.
You mean like this?
Oh my God! Is that from the freaking show we just watched?
Yeah, spoiler alert, I liked it, and so I already started buying toys. So I have. Oh wait, I'm caught in a wire. I have Battle Cat.
Oh my God!
I have Battle Cat, and I have Skelegod.
Wow.
That's all I found so far, though. So.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you later on too if there were toys, and like I know that for like the original He-Man cartoons. Well, yeah, right. But that's the thing, right? Is it always that this stuff is going to be to sell toys? Because like I don't necessarily associate Kevin Smith with making that kind of product, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I mean, you have to remember the 80s cartoons that we grew up on were extended toy commercials. They really were. They were like Transformers literally was a cartoon created out of an existing toy line to market toys. Like,
right.
So, and He-Man, for me personally, is like the precursor is like the granddaddy of 80s cartoons. That was the one that came first for me. That was my first like childhood obsession was He-Man. I lost where I was going. Of course I do.
We're talking about the association with the toys and the show.
Yes. So yeah, what they did was that they just created a whole bunch of episodes in the can. This show was only 2 seasons, but it was like 65 episodes each or something like that. So they just pumped out a whole bunch of stuff just to sell toys forever. And really great little documentary on Netflix. There's a show called The Toys That Made Us. Okay. They have episodes on He-Man, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Star Wars, Star Trek, Barbie, G.I. everything. It's a fantastic show, and absolutely give it a watch sometime.
Yes. I am really, really glad that you brought that up because that show does a great job of capturing what it felt like at that time when He-Man came out. And like you said that it's an early memory of yours, or like, it's like the granddaddy for you. Pretty much when I was a little kid, my first memories like just of my life, I remember like kind of watching the Smurfs at my grandmother's house and then watching He-Man. And I remember being excited about He-Man, and I remember the He-Man toys. And here's the thing. This is kind of a spoiler about how I feel about this controversy. Like, He-Man himself is exciting, and he's fun to watch in the original cartoon. But there's such a huge cast of characters that, like, I was excited to have little B-level characters that, were not He-Man or Skeletor. And I'd just be excited to have, like Trapjaw or Fakor, or even Stinkor. I remember having these guys. And I just feel like the world that they created is just so rich with characters that, yes, if the main character is not present, that's a letdown, but it's not like there's nothing left, right?
Totally agree. I feel like, maybe this is where I kind of got this pedigree of requiring hundreds of characters. He-Man had hundreds of characters, not hundreds, dozens of characters.
Dozens.
Transformers had hundreds of characters. G.I. Joe had hundreds of characters. Like I love that there was always somebody else in the background that occasionally got the spotlight. It just made it feel more fleshed out. And yeah, I mean, the cartoon episodes, He-Man was in every one, but everyone gets a spotlight episode, every once in a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, let's just dive right into the controversy itself, because someone gets a spotlight in this miniseries. It's 5 episodes in this first part of this show. And the controversy is that the show focuses on Teela. He-Man is killed like right away in the first episode, and Teela is the central character. Now, I've watched a few YouTube videos, and one in particular was very interesting to me. It was about a woman who's like around our age who was a He-Man fan. And, you don't see a lot of like female He-Man fans, but she was a fan.
Usually it's She-Ra.
Right, exactly. And so she was saying that by Teela replacing He-Man, it's like if you went to go see a Sailor Moon show and then all of a sudden Tuxedo Mask was the focus of the show. Or if it was She-Ra, like you just said, and Bo was the main focus of the show. And I kind of feel like that's not exactly the case, but the main controversy of this whole show is that people feel like He-Man was just knocked out, wiped out completely. Tila is the main character, and it's not just Tila in a feminine kind of role that they feel like because of her haircut and the way that she acts that she's not feminine at all, and they feel like that takes away from the character too. And then on top of that, she also has a female companion, and there might be like a little bit of romantic tension there, and then she's also a black character, so it's just like all the things
a race bent character, I should add.
A what?
A race bent character, I should add.
Well, okay, so wait a minute. So that's a character that existed in the old show?
No, from the old Star Comics.
Oh, okay.
She was a white character. I don't remember if she was blonde. I think she was like a blondish. But yeah, she was an existing character. That was one of the first things I looked up when I watched the show. I'm like, that name sounds so familiar, but I can't place her. So I had to go look it up. And yes, she was from the comics. I did read those comics. Those are some of my first comics, actually, was those He-Man Star comics.
So are they the comics that are like real small that came with the toys?
No, they were full-size comics. They were just that was the imprint, like not the imprint, like the publisher was Star Comics. They also put out Ninja Turtle comics too, I believe, for a while.
I thought Ninja Turtles was Mirage.
Well, the original ones there. I think the more animated ones, or where did they go to Archie? That's unimportant. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but she was an existing character. So every character you're seeing here, for the most part, every one that looks like it's a He-Man character is an existing character.
Yes. Okay. So Andra, then, like, I thought that she was new for the show, and I know that when it comes to this kind of stuff, fans get really mad and they start to use the term Mary Sue, right? When it's like a character that is a female character that just seems to be so great and can do anything and knows how to solve all the problems. And I've kind of got that vibe from Andra. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't feel the complaints that everyone had. Like, I understand why people would get upset, but I just feel like it's a simple matter of what if they had just said this was going to be Tila of Eternia and not called it Masters of the Universe. And in the marketing, they showed us right away that He-Man was not going to be a part of it. Like, what if they just showed it to us up front? Of course, people would complain up front, but at least it wouldn't be that people are expecting He-Man and Skeletor, and then they get Tila on a quest.
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely say that when we got the trailer for this show and it was the, I Need a Hero song in the background, it definitely seemed very classically He-Man Skeletor focused. And it by the second episode, it does almost sort of seem like a bait and switch. But, I mean, on one hand, you can't give that away, I think. I think giving that away might have pre-generated some bad press to the point that no one would have watched it at all. And two, I mean, on the other hand, too, like, the show is not done yet. Like, it very well could change to be more about He-Man afterwards. And either way, like, even if it's not, I am so happy with this show in general. Like, all I need from these shows, these remakes of these shows, are just good stories and good character arcs. Like, I know, like, people are complaining about the deaths of certain characters and the focus on other characters, but you know what? Every arc that every character's had is actually good. Maybe on the cliche side, very tropey, but they're good. I've enjoyed everything about it. I'm sad that characters are dead, but I enjoyed seeing the growth and where they started and where they ended. Okay.
I mean, as usual, you and I kind of see eye to eye. Like, I enjoyed it. Even though I kind of understand why people got upset about it, I enjoyed the show. And, there's so many things that I enjoy about it. Like, I do feel like individual characters, Orko, Evelyn, they had character arcs. They had much more development than they ever had in the show when we were kids. And yet, the show kind of retained that feeling that it had when we were kids, too. Like, it didn't seem like a big departure from the show that we watched. Like, we can kind of move away from the controversy and kind of talk about what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. And the main thing I'm going to say up front that I liked about it is, and this is the reason why this thumbnail is the way that it is it reminded me of the Transformers, the movie. Did it remind you of that at all?
Yes, it reminded me of that, and also a Thundercats comic called Thundercats: The Return.
Oh, that's Dreamwave, or
you know what? No, it wasn't Dreamwave. I don't remember who made that one.
Yeah, it was like Wildstorm or something.
It might have been Wildstorm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yes, I know that exact freaking book you're talking about.
Yeah,
yes.
very similar story process with it. It's kind of like, something happens and then it's, some time passes and it's what happened to everybody after the fact. Although that show has a lot of there's a lot of like degrading of women in that series, which is a little. Yeah. Thankfully, the Master Universe is not doing so.
Right. Yeah, stuff with Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Yeah, it's a little creepy. And Mama.
Yeah, there's some really, really poorly aging implications in that book.
Yeah. Well, it's just the reason why I compared it to the Transformers the movie is because you have this essential like attack from a villain that's been thwarted many times, and he shows up essentially at the hero's door. And it's a massive force. They attack the heroes. People are taken out on both sides, but the villains essentially succeed. And when they succeed, the main hero is taken out. And that's just like the first act of the Transformers, the movie. Optimus Prime dies. He-Man dies. Megatron gets turned into Galvatron, whatever, but kind of like he dies. And Skeletor dies, right?
Yeah.
So besides that, like, it just was like, they use the images from the boxes of like all the figures in a little montage in the very beginning where it's just still images of the characters and they're kind of moving, but it looks just like the friggin' boxes from when we were kids,
Yeah, absolutely. The whole opening scenes were great.
Yeah. Just such a great intro. And I think that it's kind of interesting because they had the same directors for every episode. This guy, Adam Connerow, and he was an animator on the Castlevania show, which you like that show a lot, right?
Oh, yeah. So this show was animated by Powerhouse Animation, and they also did the recent Castlevania show, which just ended, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like literally the high bar for video game adaptations.
Nice, yeah. I know, like, vampires are like eating babies in like the first episode, right?
Yeah, I think that happens. Yeah.
That's a little side note. But the guy he did that, but he also did like documentaries too. And that's what it looked like in documentaries, and they do especially like comic book documentaries where they have like pictures of heroes and they just kind of move versus being animated. And so that's what it felt like. And then all of a sudden you just get this freaking war of like the people from Skull Mountain versus the people from Eterno. And oh man, that was so well done, I thought.
Yeah, no, the first episode was incredibly exciting. I think it probably was my favorite one out of all because there was just so many cameos, like so many minor characters just showing up there. Like I remember there's a shot of Teela running to join the battle, and she's flanked by Fisto and Clam Champ. I'm like, yes, I know. I understand that reference.
Right. And they had those little spinny tank things. See, like,
oh yeah. All the vehicles, every single vehicle was in this show. It was fantastic.
Yes, like here's the thing: I don't remember the names of everything because it was when I was a child. But I, clearly I just like, oh, that thing, and just so spinny freaking things.
My memory is not as clear with the vehicles as it is with the characters, but yeah, like you can instantly tell, like, I had that toy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of easy to remember the characters' names though, because their names are so ridiculous.
Yeah,
right?
They're all very literal. Like the guy with the big hand is Fisto, and
right,
the guy who with the short neck is Ram Man. It looks like a battering ram.
Right. The robot is called Roboto. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I have this epic battle, this epic showdown, and then another thing that is just accentuated in that sequence is the voice cast. This show has a friggin' incredible voice cast. It's like essentially they were saying, okay, we have access to the Warner Brother people that did all the Justice League stuff, and we have access to Game of Thrones. Let's just shove that shit right into the show.
Oh, really, to throw a little shade at my favorite property here is like we have access to SAG actors, unionized actors, and not scabs like on Transformers: War for Cybertron.
Yeah.
I don't want to call them scabs. They're non-union actors, and they're it's a cost saving measure.
Yeah, but it's gonna be hard for me to watch Kingdom after watching this show.
Yeah, no, it's almost unfortunate that that's coming out a week after this. Like, I'm so high on this still. It's like, and it's just I was low on the thing on Transformers Kingdom anyway. Now it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, and that comes out tomorrow, right?
I want to say it's Friday.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 29th, but it's probably 30th. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about that voice cast. I mean, when you have friggin' Kevin Conroy as Merman, you got some balls on that, But like, that's just the way that they made Merman was so perfect because he was so serious, but he's like a fish man. But I think my favorite casting has to be Lena Headey as Evelyn. What about you?
My favorite was actually Liam Cunningham as Man-at-Arms. I don't think there has ever been a more fitting casting of a person ever in existence. I was like, it just fits. So, I mean, Lena Headey, absolutely as well. Fantastic voice actress and voice actress. But, and honestly, both of them are really just doing their own voices for the most part. But they just do it with such like gravitas. And they work both of them work excellent for this.
Yes. I mean, it was so great just like fleshing out that character when she would take off her crown or whatever, her helm, and then have her gray hair, kind of her silver hair come down. And then she's got that voice, that friggin', Lannister, Cersei Lannister.
Yep.
Essentially, she's just being Cersei Lannister. And he's essentially being Davos. But it's just perfect. And then the friggin' ridiculous thing is that we're not even talking about Mark Hamill,
Yep. Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. Like, people get so hung up on the politics of all this shit. They're like, oh, a woman is in the main character of this show. But it's like, look at what's in this show. Like, Mark Hamill is like kind of channeling the Joker, sort of. And he's also kind of channeling the original Skeletor.
I was going to say, he's definitely added that kind of high-end flair to it.
Yeah. So good. And then his dialogue is just fucking pops. There's this one part in the first episode when He-Man gets mad because Skeletor just burns Mossman to a crisp, right?
Yes. That was hard. That was almost like an Optimus Prime Transformers the movie moment. I mean, it's like, holy crap, they just burned Mossman to death. Also, fun fact, the voice actor for Mossman in this was Alan Oppenheimer, who was the original Skeletor and Cringer and countless other voices from 80s cartoons. And it was nice to see them honor someone from that cast.
Hell yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, there's even more people than what we're even mentioning, Like, as you mentioned, Cringer. The Cringer in this is played by Stephen Root. Now, people might not recognize that name right away, but if you guys have watched the show Barry, he's Fuchs. He's also in Office Space. He's the guy that goes to get the stapler, right? He's in like every friggin' HBO show. I think an HBO show has to have him in it, right? And so it's just like you have him playing friggin' Cringer. It's just like so ridiculous,
Yeah, and there's lots of other people too. There's some other major actors and other celebrities, and some other like very prominent current voice actors too. Who's in there? Susan Eisenberg is the Sorceress. That's Wonder Woman from Justice League.
Yeah.
Kevin Michael Richardson is in everything. Oh my God, and he's Beastman in this. Who else? Triclops is Henry Rollins.
Yeah, that blew my mind, man. I saw that because sometimes you recognize the voice and you don't know who it is, and then you look it up on IMDb. And
And it's like, oh yes,
yeah. For me, the biggest like oh shit was that they got friggin' Tony Todd, Candyman, to play Scareglow.
Yeah, that was a good casting too.
So let me ask you this, just a little side tangent. What's Scareglow's deal? Was because I remember the toy, but I don't remember the cartoon of him.
Yeah, I don't remember him from the cartoon really. I did. I think he was like a mail away figure or something like that. I don't know if he was even originally sold, but I do remember the toy. I don't remember his personality or anything like that. But I mean, it was just one of those nostalgia things. Like you saw it and you're like, oh, I remember that. So
yeah,
and it was good. It was like Masters of the Universe Scarecrow, sort of, you know?
Right. Very good point. Yeah, I think that maybe even in the original cartoon he was like Skeletor, but just like he transformed or something.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I have to. My memory on the original cartoon is a little on the fuzzier side, outside of character recognition, and the holiday special. Unfortunately, I do kind of feel that the original show doesn't hold up as well as some of the other '80s cartoons.
No.
So I don't revisit it as often as I do with the others.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even Transformers isn't as good as I remember it being.
To me, it is. It absolutely is. It absolutely holds up. I mean, yes, there are tons of errors, there are tons of mistakes, and there's tons of cheesy crap, but it holds up to me. Like I could sit here and watch it with my son, and he's entertained by it. Same thing with G.I. Joe. He watched a little bit of Masters of the Universe, but it didn't hold him as long as the other shows did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the original Masters of the Universe, you know, it had a place in my heart. But I know that there actually was like another reboot of the show that no one is talking about right now, and it came out in like 2002. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
oh yeah, that was a great show. Also fantastic voice cast, but that was more like veteran voice actors, and actually a lot of Beast Wars actors on that show. Cool. Yeah, like He-Man was like Leonardo from Ninja Turtles, and then there was like Rhinox and Optimus Primal and Dinobot.
Wow, there's a lot of Beast Wars.
Yeah. That was a great show. It's a great reboot. That was around the same time that both there was that great Ninja Turtle show on Fox it was like the early 2000s. That was 2002 for Masters of the Universe. Right. And then that was also when Transformers went back to like cars again. It was with the Robots in Disguise series. Shortly followed off by the Unicron trilogy and Transformers Armada. So it was kind of like a little mini renaissance for 80s properties, and they were all great shows. And I would probably say that, you know, the Turtles and He-Man were better than the Transformers shows at the time, I would say.
Yeah, and a few years after that was the Thundercats.
Yeah.
And that was really good too.
That was also a fantastic show, and that unfortunately didn't make it past the season. But that was more like closer to 2010, I think. So it was a little further along.
Yeah. All these shows, and you've even mentioned this on our show before too, that they kind of like, you know, cycle these properties, you know, that they just come like with a new version of it. They've redone the Turtles a whole bunch of times, and now He-Man. I know that there was even another He-Man show that was like a sequel to it, and I think it was like 1990. So like He-Man has been redone like about 3 times.
Yeah, and I think you know, I know we said we were going to stop talking about the controversy, and one of the things that I noticed on Twitter, I mean, I follow a lot of just Transformer fans and stuff like that, and literally every Transformer fan has the same opinion. This is fantastic. I wish what we're getting from Transformers was half as good as this.
Nice.
And I think one of the important things I noticed from that is that, you know, we've constantly had Transformers shows throughout the years. Like there's been very few gaps of time where there hasn't been some Transformers property out there. He-Man, not so much. Like you said, there's been about 3 shows here. I mean, there was the original 80s show. There was that kind of late 80s, early 90s new Masters. What is it called? New Masters of the Universe or something like that?
Yeah, where he goes into space. He goes to a planet called Primus.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So that was very, poorly received. So then we had the excellent show in 2000, but nothing really since then. I mean, they've kept out toys coming out on more of a collector's scale rather than mass retail, and that's it. So they're essentially just drip fed content, and so it's like I can almost understand why it's like, hey, it's finally our time again, and not being satisfied with the product. I mean, it hurts that much more. I mean, the blow to me that Transformers, the most recent Transformers show, isn't that great, isn't that horrible, because I still have hundreds of toys and comics and all kinds of other things to look forward to.
It's a very, very good point. Yes, there's been many good Transformers shows before these Netflix shows. Very, very good point. And He-Man, it's been a lot more scarce. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, I mean, whether you feel betrayed or whatever because of this, the Tila thing being the focus or not, there still were like solid episodes. I don't think that there was a single episode that I thought was weak. I think they actually got better as they went on. And, the first was pretty great, though, too. But for me, I think that, like, what happens with Orko maybe was, like, my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, the arc with Orko was great. He kind of comes in as being a little off his game and weak because magic has left the world. And, he gets revitalized a little bit, and he imparts some wisdom to everybody, and then he fades away in a similar way to He-Man.
Yeah.
It was very sad. I mean, there were multiple times where I was a little teary-eyed in this show, to be perfectly honest.
Nah, dude, I totally understand. Yeah, I mean, like, he has this one line about, like, writing things down in a journal because he says that, all you have left is the memories, or, like, it'll be hard to even have the memories. You can't remember the details. And it's just like, this is from a character that was kind of like the goofy side character from the 80s,
Yeah, I think that's one of the hallmarks of a great show is you can take these very almost comically named characters that are literal like bodybuilder shapes and make them so compelling and heartwarming at the same time. It's incredible. I mean, like, yes, Orko was like the jester of the show, and he had this incredible heartfelt moment right before he died.
Yeah. And like, you kind of saw into his world too, and like, you knew that his kind lived there, and they were suffering because magic was lost, and they even did show some of his like goofiness. There's one part where he like made a big magnifying lens to find his friends, and he just burned these birds in a nest. Do you remember that? That's great. And I don't really recognize the guy that was the voice of Orko, but like Kevin Smith also kind of took some of his people that are part of his like group that he's worked with before. Like, he also had Jason Mewes played a character on the show, and
he was Stinkor.
Stinkor, right.
Mr. Stinkor, and Orko is played by Griffin Newman, who I haven't watched the show, but he plays Arthur in the Amazon Tick show.
Okay, I know who that guy is. Yeah. Okay, and then what do you call? He also had the guy that's in Tusk that was with Kevin. He's in
Auto.
Yeah. And I thought he did a great job. And he's another character that bites the dust in this show too.
Yep. And I mean, also we kind of haven't said one of the biggest actors on the show. We haven't mentioned her at all.
Yeah, I know.
The most controversial character, Tila, was voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, and I think that she did a fantastic job. I was always a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan when it was out, and I think that she just had the right dynamic. She was kind of fun in her delivery, but then she was also serious, and you could tell that, like, she showed that Tila was upset with all the other characters that were keeping the secret about Prince Adam from her.
I think she did a fantastic job, but if I had to throw one little ounce of shade at this show, it's that I think with the redesign they gave Tila, and they did make her a little more buff and all that, which I'm totally cool with, I feel like her voice didn't quite look right coming out of the character.
Oh, okay.
Although she did a great job acting, it's not her fault or anything like that. It's just something about it was throwing me off a little.
Yeah.
That's really the worst thing I could say about this show.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, just with this whole controversy, like, Tila wasn't like this like sexy. I mean, like, I know for like a kid's cartoon, she was like kind of sexy, but like when you look at like Chitara from like Thundercats or like April O'Neil. Like they're a lot more feminine than Teela was even on the original, He-Man show.
Agreed.
So like for people to be like, oh, this warrior woman that wasn't that feminine, they made her less feminine. It's like, come on, like just can we worry about other things in this world?
Yeah, I absolutely. I liked it. I liked her reaction to being told. I actually thought that was one of the best things about the show too, was that when she was told that Prince Adam was He-Man, and that she that's right, she didn't know. She actually didn't know.
Yeah.
It never even dawned on me.
Yes.
And I think that was a very natural reaction to have at the time, and I really like the character growth she's had, and I'm excited to see more of it in the remaining half or whatever number of episodes left. I've seen conflicting reports if it's 8 or 10. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was a great part of the show, was that she kind of couldn't forgive Man-at-Arms or Adam, even when she meets Adam later. She had a real hard time forgiving them for keeping that secret.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Man-at-Arms also, you said that the voice acting was just perfect, or he was perfectly cast. Like they made him really cool on the show. And I was wondering too, they played this one theme mostly with him, but then they played it like kind of throughout the show. Was that theme like part of one of the other He-Man cartoons? Because I remember the specific He-Man, He-Man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And like I didn't know if either the theme was made just for this show, or like if it was from another version of He-Man.
I mean, with in that first episode, I think there was some notes of their original theme song there. But if you're talking about something that was played while like the Man-at-Arms scenes, when he was like out of nowhere and just kicking everybody's ass by himself.
Yeah,
I don't really remember what it sounded like there, so I couldn't even tell you if it was from something.
Well, wherever it was from, it was just like great. It like captured that He-Man feeling, and it had this energy, and it was just like this perfect, like, oh, he's here, the hero's here, he's gonna kick some ass. It was perfect. So my friend is kind of convinced that Prince Adam died at the end of this episode. I don't think he did.
No, 100% not. There will 100% be a battle between He-Man and Skelegod, and Kevin Smith himself even said that.
Yeah.
So I mean, whether or not they kill He-Man a third time by the end of this show is up in the air. But he's 100% not dead, and he will be back.
Yeah. He's not the cliff jumper of the Masters of the Universe.
Oh, God. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
It's one of the few characters that live through the movie that kills everybody, and then you start killing them off at everything.
So, what do you call? Is there anything else that you want to touch upon about this show, or we're just like looking forward to part 2?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to part 2. I'm hoping to see some more cameo characters. There are some kind of more major, or some of my favorite heroes that I have not seen yet.
Yeah.
Like Stratos, Manny Faces, Mechaneck. I would love to see. Did we see Ram Man? Was he in that first episode?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't remember. But I would like to see some more heroes and some more obscure villains popping up.
Who's the dude that's like, I'm neutral? He's like Metron, right? Like, who's that dude? He doesn't he have like a fucking flying chair too, like Metron? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember that character actually. Okay.
It's all good. Yeah. There's actually one thing I forgot to mention that I liked a lot too, which was that they kind of did this whole like lore dive essentially, where it's like, oh, okay, so Eternia gets its power from Preternia and Subternia, and they're able to channel it all into this like heart of magic, right? And you still have technology, and that's kind of one of the cool things about He-Man, is because it's not just like straight up just sorcery like Lord of the Rings or some other kind of high fantasy. It also has that sort of Star Wars kind of laser and spaceships kind of aspect too. And so it was cool to see that idea where like Triclops kind of made his own religion based on technology. And we talked about the Masters of the Universe movie with Dolph Lundgren. The guy that made that movie, the director, and I think maybe it was either the director or the writer, but he wanted to make it like based on the Fourth World by Jack Kirby, like the new gods, like Darkseid and Apocalypse and, Orion. And I thought it was kind of funny because they worshipped the mother. What was it? The mother board? Did you remember that when they had the religion?
Yes. I want to say, I think it was motherboard. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just kind of reminded me of the mother box from, So
you just reminded me that a long time ago I read some article about how saying the Masters of the Universe movie was like the best Jack Kirby thing ever adapted.
Right. And so seeing this, it makes me think that they could do a good like Fourth World cartoon, or they could do a good live action Fourth World cartoon, or live action Fourth World movie.
Well, they were going to, but they canceled it. So
yeah, that's lame. And then one other thing that was like a kind of a reference to the Dolph Lundgren movie, they had those like discs that they were flying on in the last episode. Yeah, I love those discs. Cool, man. Well, I enjoyed talking about this with you. And of course, we'll talk about the next set of episodes too. Unfortunately, our next thing that we're going to discuss is Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom.
Yep. Hey, but you know what? We have Suicide Squad to look forward to.
Oh,
and we have Suicide Squad's it's not this week. It's not this Friday. It's the next Friday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That some fantastic reviews so far.
I know.
So I am pumped for that movie.
Yeah, shit, yeah, man. So we're gonna cover on this channel Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, and then we're gonna cover Suicide Squad after that. So we hope you guys can join us. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And me and Brian will be here to give you guys the power. We'll see you guys